the Pop Culture Junkie podcast. I'm Olivia, here with
Shauna.
And we're so pleased you have elected to spend time with us. We're all about choice here, and the fact that you choose Pop Culture Junkie means everything to us. So, it's been a little bit. What have you been up to, Shauna?
Oh, just hanging with celebrities. And
Yes.
So as previously mentioned, I'm with the Yes on Prop 139 team in Arizona. This is my first election I've worked on.
Yep.
I've worked for a lot of pro-choice organizations for years, but never a political campaign. And getting to see the inner workings of a political campaign is so interesting.
Yeah.
And just every day, there's something every single day, right? And so we had Chrissy Teigen come to town this past weekend.
How did that go? Because I know you didn't want to like her initially.
Oh my God. The thing about my feelings for Chrissy Teigen is I was very neutral. I didn't really know much about her except for she's
Courtney Stott and stuff.
Yeah. And I knew she was hot and funny.
And
right?
married to John Legend.
She
is an amazing cook, though.
Yeah.
I will say that.
It's not I didn't like her. I just didn't really know much about her, to be fair. It's kind of how I feel about just any kind of neutral celebrity. Yeah. I don't know. After meeting her, I'm obsessed with Chrissy Teigen. I'm absolutely a fan. She was amazing. So she came to Arizona specifically to canvass with us, met some abortion storytellers at a coffee shop, and literally just sat with these women and talked about her abortion experience from a wanted pregnancy. They all told their stories. Then she came outside, did a little rally, and then it was just me and her plus her entire entourage in a Sprinter van, which I had never been in. But they were like, oh, just get in our van. Just get in with us. Because I was going to just follow behind them in my car. And they were like, no, we have an extra seat. I was like, oh my God, okay.
Is there candy?
Literally. Oh my God. So I told Chrissy, there's 3 rules to canvassing, 3 no-nos. Don't go in anyone's house.
Yep.
Don't ask for any candy or don't accept candy from strangers, and don't pry into their personal lives. And she did all 3 of those, and it was really funny. She literally walked into somebody's house to hug their husband, and she came back out and was like, Chrissy, we talked about this girl.
Did she have security with her?
Yes.
Okay.
So
was her security
yeah, you could see him just rolling his eyes. I mean, okay, spoiler, but peek behind the curtain. The houses we went to were pre-vetted.
Okay, yeah, good.
So we didn't just show
I was wondering how that worked because I'm ooh.
You don't just show up to random strangers' houses because we don't know if there's security risk.
We do. Yeah,
I do all the time. Fuck Shauna's health and safety. Chrissy Teigen,
Yeah.
No, when you're there with a celebrity, you go to their house in advance and you're like, within the next hour, are you chill if Chrissy Teigen comes by? And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So everybody was very sweet to her, and she seemed genuinely really excited to be there. It was so nice to me and asked me about my life, and we were just joking around. And then once we were done, we went back for a final rally, and she was sitting there, and I was kind of on the side because I was working, and she turned around casually and saw me and went, waved all enthusiastically and made the little heart sign, and I waved back, and my coworkers looked at me and they're like, you guys are friends now, Shauna.
I mean, it's hard not to like you. So.
Oh my God. And then as we were walking out and her security was there and people were ambushing her, this guy showed up with bathing suit posters of her, and her security guard would be oh, everybody back, hurry back. She came up to me and grabbed my shoulder and was like, oh my God, Shauna, it was so nice to hang out with you. And I was like, all right, I'm officially fucking in love with Chrissy.
Can I take that sign and will you sign it?
Yeah, can I take that bathing suit poster? Because we're in love now.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was delightful. She was very kind and very sweet. So
yeah, you can really do it all because you went out the night before and that was quite the feat.
Yeah, it was. We had a good time though.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah, we were bar maidens.
Yes.
Barmaids? I don't know.
Yeah, maidens.
Maidens.
Maidens sounds more...
Maiden sounds virginal though.
Oh, does it? I thought it was more
she's a maid. I'm thinking
we're on our maiden voyage.
I was thinking maiden, mother, and crow.
Yeah, so perfect fitting for us. We are innocent.
We're just innocent little virgin bar maidens. I say with my devil t-shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went out the night before with you guys and we danced and it was fun.
We went to Thundercat Lounge in Arizona, which I've never been to, but it was so fun.
It was great. They played great music. It was like a lot of 80s synth pop and like the whole vibe. And there was like neon 80s.
And then they hit us with Iconopop, Charlie XCX.
Yes.
That was like right before I left. And I swear I lost my voice. You can still kind of hear me losing my voice. Just from screaming Britney Spears. And Chapel Roan.
It's like we did HOTTOGO. Like really, we went all out.
I was so proud because I've introduced so many people to Chapel Roan and everyone was doing it. And I was like,
I wouldn't have known Chapel Roan if it wasn't for you.
Like,
you introduced me to her before she got like super popular too. Yeah. So you're not like the other girls.
It's okay. I found her on TikTok, but I just found her like a little bit sooner because you never check your TikTok.
I was locked out of my TikTok.
Probably because you never check it.
I tried to get back in the other day because I wanted to make a TikTok for work. And I ended up having to do it on Reels because I'm locked out. I'm totally locked out. I'm
gonna have to thing called password reset.
No, I tried it. Listen, girl, it was like a solid 45 minutes.
It's okay. Your younger, intelligent friend will help you reset your password.
You can give big maiden energy. I'm giving crone energy right How do I get back into this damn TikTok?
None of us are mothers, except unless we're counting Ziggy and puppies.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
toast.
true. And toast. But yeah, maybe you can help me get back into it. I'm sure I have like 200 unviewed TikToks from you.
Probably. I've actually been super busy, so I haven't been on it as much.
Send me Reels instead. That I can do.
No. I'm not that old.
I love asking the younger volunteers. I'm like, oh my God, it was so great working with you today. Do you have an Insta? And they're like, no, I don't.
I have a TikTok.
I have a TikTok. And I'm like, well, shit.
Well, I've aged immensely.
At least I didn't ask for your Facebook.
Well, I love that.
What have you been up to?
So I went to San Francisco again.
Shocking.
Yes, I know. For work. And what I did this time, so instead of staying in a tiny little shoebox hotel, me and my coworkers actually rented a Airbnb this time. So nice. It was like gorgeous. It was like an older Victorian and was just literally gorgeous. It was like a $2 million home, which was actually a street over from the Painted Ladies, which you may have seen the Painted Ladies in the iconic Princess Diaries. Mm-hmm. And so my coworkers and I did a Princess Diaries marathon.
Oh my God. Did you hear they announced number 3?
Yes. So I wanted to talk about it. So it was very timely for pop culture. Now, I think rewatching the first one really holds up to just like a good movie. Like you can watch it at 31 and be like, this is amazing. I really love it. I did not remember how cheesy the second one was.
All I remember is Chris Pine. Do they end up together in the second one?
Yes.
They do? Okay.
Yes.
I remember he's
like kind of the evil one trying to steal her crown.
Yeah, but then they fall in, she changes him because she's so pure heart.
Yeah.
And then she becomes the queen. Mm-hmm. And I think that's all I remember. Oh, and she leads little girls like holding their hands and gives them all crowns or something.
Yeah, like her bachelorette party is filled with like 12-year-olds. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I know, that part's really dumb.
It's a little cheesier. Like I think they were like, oh, our audience really is like this demographic. Let's lean into it. But I am really excited for the third one because she'd be like...
She'll be the queen.
She'll be like 40.
Like 40, yeah. I hope Chris Pine's still in it.
So he hasn't confirmed that he's a part of it, but I'm assuming she's executive producer. And so they haven't really gotten that far. It'd be very early in pre-production, but that was amazing. And I always make this joke that every time I go to San Francisco, I think about 2 things. The Princess Diaries and the Zodiac Killer.
So Ted Cruz and Anne Hathaway, that's it.
Yeah, Ted Cruz.
I was going to say Netflix. Full House.
I
never watched it.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Full House girly. I know the iconic You Got It Dude, but I was a Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen stan once the direct-to-DVD movies came out.
I've never seen any of those either. I feel like I was in that weird like little time in my life where we just...
You are the crone after all.
I am the crone. We were trying to watch rated R movies at sleepovers.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I don't think they're very... good to go back on at this age, but they are iconic.
Yeah.
Megan Fox got her start in the Island in the Sun one.
That is so
she's
cute.
The mean hot girl.
Of course she's the mean hot girl.
And so Funny enough, the next night, Netflix released a Zodiac Killer documentary.
Okay, I gotta watch that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. They're making a case for this man named Robert Allen to actually be the Zodiac Killer. I mean, every single Zodiac Killer documentary makes a case for, like, who is this
person?
Yeah. And one of the most interesting updates with the Zodiac Killer is they've never been able to fully solve all the ciphers.
Yeah.
Like, they've gotten, I want to say 2. But AI is actually now helping to solve it, so they may actually solve it.
I was going to say, we just need to get an autistic person on the case. Listen.
And so...
they will solve that shit in 2 minutes.
Yeah, I watched one on, I want to say Amazon Prime. I think it's also on Hulu. That was a really good one as well. They made the case for, like, these 3 different people as well. But yeah, I mean, the most interesting part about the Zodiac Killer is he just abruptly stopped.
Yeah.
And so he either was imprisoned
What year is this, in the 60s?
It's in the 70s.
So he could still be alive,
yeah,
depending on how old he was.
but pretty old. Yeah. And so he's either, killed or incarcerated for something else other than being the Zodiac Killer. Yeah, I said...
He's like, I was in a silly mood, now I'm over it.
No more murder for me. But,
murder, please.
So I got to fulfill both my dreams. I watched that. I also went and saw Smile 2.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was so good.
It was, like, scary.
Yeah, I will say much gorier.
Yeah, it was gory as hell.
Smile 1.
I had to do this for like one scene.
I had my hands on my face like, oh
yeah,
God,
just
for a long time.
I
my
won't say
buttery
how.
Fingers.
Yeah, what buttery?
I was eating buttered popcorn.
Oh, me too. I ate so much popcorn and I had hella bubble guts that night. Anyway, worth it. When I mean, I guess it's not really a spoiler because this is what Smile's about. When the first guy, like, kills himself in, like, the apartment and she watches.
Very disturbing.
I was like, oh, my God, this is horrible.
Thankfully, my friend had gone and seen it, like, earlier in the day. And I was like, oh, did you like it? Like, spoiler for your review. And she's like, it's much gorier. So I was kind of, like, primed for it. But I will say, going into it, know that it's a little gorier.
But really
Shauna
good.
and I have talked about how we don't like gore. And we still really liked it. I liked it more than the first one.
I did, too. And I didn't think it was too, like, over-the-top gory. Like, I can do gore like that where it kind of gives you that, like, sensation. Like, Andrew has been watching the Terrifier movies, and I refuse to watch those. I can't.
Yeah. Any movie that has the promo of, like, people are throwing up in the theater. I'm like,
why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
I spent good money on this meal.
I already have enough of a stomach problem. I'm good.
Baby, I already have IBS.
And, I will say, so Nepo Baby casting worked its magic, probably for the first time ever. It has Ray Nicholson in it.
Oh, yeah,
which
he's
is
great.
Yeah, and you can immediately tell that is Jack Nicholson's son.
They look
once you start to see him.
Especially when he smiles.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he smiles.
Yeah, go figure, smiles. I just loved it. I thought it was really good. And yeah, there is something about that smile that is just so creepy.
I was doing it to Andrew for days afterwards. Just like...
Oh, you're actually pretty good at that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm a really big
YouTube,
creep.
you can see it. If you do that plus the rocking, like, Paranormal Activity over him in
just
bed,
like both.
Yeah. I would fully knock you out that time, though.
He dropped me off at Walgreens like the next day, and he's like, "I'm gonna stay in the car," and I was like, "I gotta go get, I don't know, tampon or lip gloss or some girl shit,
female things,
girl things." And I get out of the car and I just stand in front of the car and I'm just like. And you can see him in the car and he's like, get the fuck in there. He's like mouthing up. He's like, stop it.
He just drives you off the road.
I get back in the car and he's like, people can see. I don't care.
He's like, I knock on doors for a living right now. I have no shame.
I literally, I do not care what people think. I don't care. Maybe I should care more.
I love that. Anything else you've really watched in our little break?
Oh God, I've just been watching a lot of scary movies. I watched Sleepy Hollow for the first time. I know, I've never seen it all the way through.
It is a classic.
I really enjoyed it.
Johnny Depp is so hot.
He's so hot in it. And Christina Ricci's really pretty in it too. So I really enjoyed that. I watched a movie called Strange Darling.
I don't know if I've seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely like a kind of under the radar thriller. I don't want to spoil a thing about it because it starts one way and you think you know where it's going. Oh God, I don't.
No one knows.
Oh my God. Okay. The actor who is in Jennifer's Body.
Oh, I'm in Seafried?
No, it's the guy who plays like the little goth boyfriend.
Oh, funny
He's an
enough,
adult now and he's hot as hell. He's so fine. Great mustache.
we watched Jennifer's Body. This is so random, but I knew a girl in high school who is cousins with him. And
Really?
they have the same very flat face. Sorry. And every time I see him, I can't not see that girl.
Okay,
And
but look at him now. I don't know. I didn't even realize it was him until later. Okay. And I was like, there's no way.
I had a bad mushroom trip with that girl, though. So I think it's just imprinted in my brain.
You're going to watch this movie and just have like mushroom flashbacks. Oh my God.
Literally, though.
Yeah, he's very handsome now.
Okay, I'll watch it.
Great movie. Yeah, it reminded me kind of like, oh gosh, what's that movie that came out last year where it looks like it's going to be about an Airbnb gone wrong and then all of a sudden there's a monster in the walls? There it is.
Yeah. That movie is so bad, though.
I love Barbarian.
It's like two separate movies put together.
The only reason it reminded me of this is because when the movie starts, you're like, oh, this is a movie about XYZ. Okay. And then about halfway through, you're like, oh, this is not a movie about XYZ.
Is it as jarring of a jump?
No.
Okay, good.
No, it's not
I didn't like that
it
movie
makes
for that
sense.
reason.
It's just like, I only in the way that like you think you know where you're going with it and it's not. Mm-hmm. So I definitely would recommend that.
I love that. Well, since you've been having such a foray into politics as of late, we wanted to talk about a better time, a time before the madness of our political season where politicians could just be good people on camera.
We'll talk about that after the break.
Yeah. My fellow junkies, Shauna and I don't have to tell you or anyone that is an election happening in this country. You've gotten 20,000 texts probably while watching this episode.
How did Kamala get my phone number? Yeah. It's so weird.
Mama love, what are you doing here? Unfortunately, even your dog probably knows that it is an election season.
Oh, she knows because I've been very anxious. I just need to hold you.
The other day you sent that video of her wet and it was so jarring. I was like,
she's
what?
So much tinier.
It looked like a demon for a second. I was like, Buffy, is that you? What did she do to you?
Buffy is 90% floof.
Yeah.
You get her wet and she's just a little gremlin.
Maybe if you're lucky, we'll share it here. And we may not know the outcome of the election until after this episode comes out. Yeah. Actually, Shauna's hedging a bet that it comes out on Thursday. I'm praying we wrap it up real quick.
Oh, God, I hope so. So we will know the Prop 139 results like that night in Arizona and maybe a lot of local races wherever everybody lives. But I want to know everybody's bets on when the presidential election is called. And I think November 7th by noon. That's what I hope it's earlier, but that's what I'm betting.
Yeah. And like us, you are no doubt dealing with fear, anger, dread, anxiety, and maybe even worse. It's quite overwhelming. Buffy would agree. And that's why it may seem a little odd that we're going to talk about politics and pop culture. But where better to retreat to the land of make-believe? In movies and on TV, big world-changing problems can be resolved in as little as 46 minutes. So I wanted to talk about, what is your favorite pop culture political TV show? Just kind of out of the gate.
Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Okay.
Yeah. We watch that almost every week. Unless I'm just too anxious, because even though he's hilarious, sometimes I watch it and I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because it's all real stuff that he's dealing with and talking about, but in a funny way. And he's really educational, too.
Yes. I love his little segments where he really dives deep into one specific topic. Yeah. And it's more like, okay, not just like the person, but the systematic problems that come from,
like today we're talking about prison reform or like insurance, and like it's really interesting. I've also been a fan of The Daily Show for years.
Yes. Well, he came from The Daily.
Yeah, exactly. So like original Jon Stewart run, and then I really love Trevor Noah, and now Jon Stewart's back just when we need him.
Yes.
So those are my favorite like nonfiction, I guess, political shows. But then I loved House of Cards and Parks and Rec, which I know we'll talk about later.
Yeah, I would say I was kind of going through and thinking of all of my favorite political TV shows, and I would say that they're very conspiratorial in nature. Go figure.
Yeah.
But, I really loved House of Cards. I think, We don't love Kevin Spacey, but we can separate the art from the artist.
Why did he have to go and blow it like that? We loved that show
I think
so much.
Right. It's kind of like he was already always a bad person, which is why I think he played the Frank
Underwood. Yeah.
Yeah, I almost said Underworld.
Frank Underwood from the underworld.
Yeah, I mean it's not far off, but Frank Underwood was just such a good character.
He was such a good
and
character.
I think he came in a time where, you know, America was really starting to have a disdain for political figures. I mean, I think it's only gotten worse since the show came out.
I think there's like this interesting mix right now of people having a disdain for political figures or absolutely worshiping them and idolizing them. Like, I mean, the amount of idolization that goes on around Donald Trump is insane because this man doesn't give two shits about any of you. And people are like getting tattoos and flags and hats and making their Trumpism their entire personality, right?
Yes.
And I mean, even you could say that for the left too. Like, I liked Bernie Sanders as much as the next person.
Yeah,
but
Bernie bros,
people thought
all
that
of that.
Bernie was gonna like just be the be all end all, and I don't know. I can't idolize any politician like that.
Yeah, and you know, I think with House of Cards, it really embodies this secret, seedy, like everything is an illusion.
Yeah,
start of TV. I was looking at the Rolling Stones best 20 political movies and TV shows. And what was really interesting going through this list of what's known as like the best political movies of all time is they were really coming out before the 2000s.
They were kind of old. I hadn't seen many of them.
Yeah, and they were representations of, you know, strong political figures that you could trust. And I thought it was such an interesting, you know, dichotomy of how far we've come, where now like our popular ones are going to be like House of Cards. I really liked Homelander.
Oh God, that's where we're headed if Trump wins.
I really liked Homeland as well, which is, you know, very conspiratorial.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody gasped. What is that about?
It is so good. So Homeland is about the CIA, and it's about this imperfect CIA agent, and she is Claire Danes plays her.
Oh,
and
okay.
What's his name? I can't remember his name. Damian Lewis is in it, and basically he is like a prisoner of war who comes back, and he's been turned into like a jihad, and but they don't know it, and he starts to get put up this like political ladder into becoming like a senator and all this stuff,
and he's like infiltrating the whole time.
Yeah, and Claire Danes is like the only one who's convinced that he's been turned, and so it's like this story, but she's also bipolar, and so she makes like these really dumb decisions, and not that being bipolar has you make dumb decisions, but she is trying to hide her mental illness, and like you can't really do that.
Interesting.
And so
when you said Claire Danes, like now I can picture her like on a poster or something.
Yes,
for this.
where she has like that like wrapped around her.
Exactly. Maybe I'll give it a whirl. That sounds really interesting.
I started it in COVID and binged like the first 5 seasons.
Oh my God, I was say if it's more than like 5 seasons, I might be out.
Maybe watch it after the election, but it is so good. It's on Showtime. I think you can also find it like on YouTube TV, like just depends.
I've also wanted to watch The Americans, which I heard was
really
my gosh,
good.
I think
Americans
Haley
is my
loved
other
that
one.
show, right? Like
The Americans is so good, and it's also very conspiratorial. It's about Russian spies coming in during the 70s or 80s.
And I just love Felicity, so I'll watch anything.
Yeah, exactly. And that is so good. That is another one that I absolutely binge. So it's funny to me because, you know, I would ask my dad, like, what is your favorite political show? And he would immediately say West Wing, which I think West Wing is a good representation of our hopefulness back in the 2000s of our belief in political figures.
Yeah, they can do right. They can be in here for honor and trust and stuff. That's a really good point. And all of a sudden, everything is like the seedy underbelly of what really goes on. I also liked a show. I didn't watch the whole thing because it kind of fell off, but it was called Designated Survivor with the same guy from 24.
Kiefer Sutherland.
There it is.
Also, I love 24, but it is very problematic.
Oh my God,
and we'll talk a little bit about
but it's like the whole president's cabinet, like whenever there's a State of the Union, everybody goes, but one person stays behind in case there's an attack.
Yes.
And there's an attack and it's all wiped out. So he goes from being like this lower level, like government employee to being the president in like one night.
I've watched that with my dad, actually.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's so good. And like, he's imperfect, but like he does the right thing.
He's just a dad.
He has a strong moral compass. Yeah.
Maybe I should get back on that. House of Cards is the opposite, where he's got that low moral compass. Yeah. I tried to get my dad to watch House of Cards. He's not listening. I love you, Dad. Yeah. Him and his wife said they couldn't watch it because there was too much oral sex in it. And I'm like, so that tells me what you guys aren't doing. Like,
it's probably good.
Also,
it's probably good.
Like 60s. Who cares if there's some cunnilingus?
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
Jesus
cares if there's cunnilingus.
Jesus cares. Yeah. Well, I think it's a little too close for home to them to look into
corrupt politicians.
Yeah. One of the interesting things that we were reading through this Rolling Stones list, and I'll just kind of read the 10. Yeah. You know, they're from 10 to 9. So 10 is A Face in the Crowd. It came out in 1957. We had this movie called on number 9 called Bob Roberts, which is 1992.
I want to watch that now that you sent me the trailer for it. Yes. It looks fascinating.
Yeah, so I was actually hoping to watch the movie before this episode, but you actually cannot find it anywhere in streaming in the United States.
We could find it if we went to like a Zia Records or something and got it on DVD tape or something. Yeah,
then like, we'd have to find a DVD player.
Goodwill.
Yeah.
I own a VHS player.
Oh my gosh.
Or a VCR.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Well, because I wanted to show Andrew my whole home movies. I am serving crone ass energy in this episode.
I can't get use
my VCR. I can't get into my TikTok.
I do like knowing that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But so this film is very known as the predictor of Donald Trump. And so if you just go on YouTube and look at Bob Roberts' trailer, it was insane.
Cult of personality to a T.
Yeah. The only thing that Donald Trump does not mirror this person on is
attractiveness.
Well, that, and he's not like a singer.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. But it is really this guy who comes in, he's a Nepo baby rich person who comes in
like a country music singer.
Yeah. And just like in the trailer, it really lays out like everything. I was watching a clip from it and like he gets like almost assassinated and I was like, wow, this is even more this is even more spot on.
Did you catch the young Jack Black?
I didn't actually until you said it.
Yeah, he looks familiar. He's like, I love Bob Roberts or something like in the
But yeah, it was really, really crazy to see. So there were some movies that were starting to make its way into the zeitgeist that were making fun of politicians, really calling attention to the craziness of politics with humor. And I think one of the best movies that I have seen that I really, really like that is looking backwards is the movie Dick. And you had never seen it before, right?
I've seen that movie.
So full disclosure, I was on my computer and I was trying to see where I could stream Dick again. And whenever I started to go type into my work computer, Dick into the search bar, and I just like looked, and before I hit enter, I was like, that's a personal search.
It's like Dick movie. Yeah. Wait, still not better. Still not better.
And so if you've never seen Dick, it's with Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams.
I've seen I can picture the cover in my head though from Blockbuster.
Yes, right? And this is a movie that is kind of made for teenagers. Like it's silly, it's goofy, but I think it had a really profound effect on the adults who lived through the Nixon administration.
Yeah.
And kind of saw all that. I was watching it and I was just thinking like, man, what we wouldn't do for Nixon now.
Oh my God. And now that I think about it, I think that maybe we weren't alive during the Nixon administration, but that was probably the beginning of like the downfall of American politics. And then you get like Ronald Reagan, and in my opinion, that's the entrance of like Christian nationalism into the zeitgeist and like that mix of religion with politics. But
yeah, I mean, this movie is stacked with, like I mentioned, Kirsten Dunst, Michelle Williams. We have Dan Hedaya, Will Ferrell, and just so many famous
to give it a whirl.
comedians in it, and it is basically, instead of the mysterious Deep Throat, Kirsten Dunst and Michelle Williams are 15-year-old girls, and they are Deep Throat in the movie, and it is so funny.
Oh my god,
it's hilarious. Of course, there's a lot of sly dick jokes.
I love
it,
a sly dick joke.
Yeah.
When I first started going to ASU, Jessica and I were in journalism, and we got putting a bunch of 18-year-olds in a room and trying to teach them about Deep Throat the entire time. We were just like, hee, the entire room. And the professor had to get up there and be like, stop laughing at Deep Throat. It's not that funny, which of course was the most fucking hilarious thing we'd ever heard. Because it is funny.
He's like your dad and your stepmom. It's not getting deep throated.
Oral Deep Throat isn't funny, and it's too much oral sex. You can never have too much oral sex. Sorry.
Yes, and just to kind of finish off these top 10 political movies.
Oh, I want to talk
really
about.
fast.
I don't know what number this is in the list, so I want to talk about Idiocracy.
Oh, yes, it's coming
keep
up.
going.
So we have Lincoln, which is obviously about Abraham Lincoln. And then number 7, we have Idiocracy. And I want to kind of take you back to 1999.
How old was I? I was 10 years old.
Or
full of
I
hope.
guess, yes. Did you see it when it first came out? Or when did you first watch this movie? And what did you think when you first saw it?
I see it as a 2006 movie. So it looks like the concept kind of went back. It felt like the early 2000s, but it wasn't released until 2006.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Rolling
exactly.
Stone says 1999.
Yeah, so the film was released.
News.
Fake news. So I watched it in high school.
Okay.
And at the time I thought, no one could ever be this stupid.
Yes. I remember watching this and being like, what a dumb movie. This could never happen.
Exactly. And so now it's kind of got this cult following.
Because it really is where we are today.
It's got electrolyte.
Yes.
Yes. So Idiocracy stars Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, Dax Shepard, Terry Crews, Justin Long. I mean, another hilarious cast. So Luke Wilson plays, I don't know, a low-level, dude.
He's just a guy who travels to the future.
Yes, he hibernates or gets cryo-frozen.
Yeah.
And wakes up and he's the smartest person alive.
Yeah.
And back in his time, he was just a dude.
Yeah, he was not very smart. But in the future, he becomes, the smartest person ever. And really just using critical thinking skills ultimately. Yes. But everybody has lost that ability, which is so funny to see a movie that was either conceived in 1999 and released in 2006. Who could know?
Yeah. There's no way to know.
Not the Rolling Stones, apparently. But
yes, and the president is Terry Crews, and he is just a personality. He's just this bombastic personality.
He's a wrestler.
He's a professional wrestler. He doesn't really have any plans or policy, but he's got a big personality, so he gets elected president.
Yeah, and when I want to say, when we were kind of approaching 2017, it became really popular to be like, we are literally living in Idiocracy, and it is crazy to go back and watch, to be like 10, 15 years later now, it feels like this is our reality.
It really does. God, I mean, when I just think about how he accepted a reality TV star to be our president.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been
here we are.
What's interesting, obviously The Apprentice has come out as a reality show. Yeah. And then recently we have had drama with the movie The Apprentice with Sebastian Stan.
So, okay, I forgot that this was a thing.
Yes.
But I know Sebastian Stan is playing Trump, which is crazy because Sebastian Stan's a very good looking person, but I digress.
They make him look pretty dang close.
He's a little orange.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't so orange back then. So
it's a throwback.
Yeah. So the movie The Apprentice with Sebastian Stan as a young Donald Trump came out and has really been mirrored in controversy ever since they released it at Cannes. And so the film
it's already came out.
Yeah, so you can go see it now in theaters.
I don't know if I want to.
Yeah. And so the film explores Donald Trump's early life and his early years in real estate under the mentorship of Roy Cohn. So it really did run into a lot of struggles. So when it first came out at Cannes, Donald Trump and his team really threatened a lot of the distributors to say that...
So it doesn't paint him in a very pretty light.
It doesn't paint him in a great light, in his opinion. But then there are also critics who say it was too sympathetic and that they don't villainize him enough, which I think is just kind of a good representation of where we're at in the world. Like, there's no ability to be in the middle, and just look at someone, how they arrived where they are. I think, you know, you can look at Donald Trump and say, like, he's been evil from the beginning, but I think a lot of it is the human experience, and you can go through that and look at that. Like, he's a shit person.
He's a terrible person. I mean, he's been, like, even when he was just a property manager or whatever, he had, like, racist policies for that, too. Yeah, he's just a bad, selfish person.
And I think it kind of goes to the human experience of wanting to understand, like, a serial killer. Not that he's killing people.
I just agreed with no notes. I was like,
But, you know, you want to understand and you want to explore how someone got there.
But do we need to give them, like, a platform in a movie about themselves? Especially while maybe not, like, does it have to come out right now when we're still in the mud with this guy where he might be the fucking president again, right? So, I mean, maybe in 10 years from now, once he's long gone.
See, I would disagree on that note, though, because I don't think it shows him in a good light at all. But I also don't think it's like an overly sided opinion.
So maybe it's just very neutral.
Yeah, well,
I mean, not neutral because he's a bad person. Yeah, I mean, so it's going to show through who he is.
So, you know, kind of going through the issues. So Trump labeled the film as pure fiction and threatened legal action against its creators. This led to distributors not wanting to pick up the film, which, you know, kind of given what's going on with the Washington Post right now with Jeff Bezos, you know, it's a very interesting argument that we have. And so it was well received at cons. A lot of people have said, like, should we release this in an election year? Ultimately, that is why Donald Trump wanted to stop it, is so that it didn't come out. It wasn't his October surprise. What's been really interesting.
Not that the October surprise worked out in favor last time.
And so, you know, I think it's been really interesting to watch the press of this movie. Yeah. And, you know, Sebastian Stan has been seen on, like, the red carpet of, like, please just go see the movie and form your own opinion. Okay. Yeah. Which is crazy. It's like we're so divided on, you know, should this even come out, where it's
that people
art
aren't even going to see it. Yeah.
I think that art should always be, you know, presented and nuanced and thought through, and
maybe
things
I'll
like
give it a try once I'm further removed from the election. Like right now, we're all so immersed in it. I had to stop watching Handmaid's Tale like years ago because it just got so like close to home and anxiety inducing.
I would agree with that. And then I found out she was a Scientologist.
I know. And now it's like, I don't feel as bad. But maybe in a couple years, I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, exactly.
Once the PTSD sets.
And so I know I'm taking like 17 years to go through this list, but 6 was Wag the Dog in 1997. It has De Niro in it and Dustin Hoffman. For number 5, this is where you'll start to see a lot of these movies are very, very old.
Yeah. Just rattle these off.
Yeah. So 5, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. That's a 1939 movie. We have The Candidate in 1972. We have, for 3rd, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned How to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb, 1964. For number 2, In the Loop, 2009. And then for number 1, which none of you will be surprised by this, is All of the President's Men of 1976.
Probably very good movies. Worth the watch.
I have seen All the President's Men. I think it's a great movie. Yeah. It's kind of what they spoof Dick off of.
Oh, gosh. It's the serious Dick.
Yeah, so it's the serious Dick. Serious Dick.
Sometimes you need a serious Dick and a funny Dick.
Yeah, and so, you know, I think that it has just been such an interesting metamorphosis that we've gone through just through our lives, both in the media that gets created as well as the way that politics has changed.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and then I want to talk about just politics as itself, as entertainment. We've mentioned that election years, and I think this will probably be an overwhelming sentiment, can be anxiety-inducing and make you worried, especially if things are a tight race, right? And when you feel like so much is on the line. I feel like in recent years, politics has almost become itself entertainment.
Yep.
So I have heard some people say that they are voting for Donald Trump because he's, quote, funny or entertaining, right? Which I think is...
I'm not racist. I just think he's funny.
Literally. And I'm like, these are not qualities that I need in a president. I want somebody who's going to be, frankly, boring and steady. I don't need them to be entertaining. And I don't know. I think, and then people are kind of creating entertainment out of when Trump was in office. Oh, what's he going to do next? What's his next tweet going to be, right? And I mean, what do you think about just kind of like, I've mentioned cult of personality, like people who watch politics as entertainment. I mean, on the more boring side, there's people who just enjoy watching C-SPAN.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me. But like, there's people who just enjoy listening to political talk radio and, you know, find it as entertainment. So...
Yeah, I would probably say in 2016 to 2020, I was much more involved in watching the news, watching it every day, making sure that I was following things on a daily basis. And I think that it is very easy to get sucked into it. Like a lot of people say the day that 24/7 or 24-hour news cycles were created was the day that, you know, journalism died, democracy died. Yeah. Because ultimately it really is advantageous for these news networks to make you angry.
Absolutely.
Or I guess not even make you angry, but keep you hooked. That's how they make their money. They have advertising dollars. Unfortunately, the human experience does not stay around for good stories. What we are incentivized to do is get angry, to hate watch things, to get upset, and that keeps us tuned in.
To get riled up and tuned in. Exactly.
Yeah. And so, you know, I can look at my own personal, like, mental health in the times where I was watching the news every day and I was, you know, waking up and listening to the daily every single day. And it just became this really negative cycle. And, you know, I'll look at my brother who is like a libertarian, and he would wake up every single day and, you know, watch Fox News, and he would watch like other channels as well.
I had no idea your brother watched Fox
And we
News.
lived together at this time in 2020, and it was really insidious to watch like how that changed him, how that changed me, how that, you know, really went into it. And so, you know, I think it's a very human thing to get sucked into that. Like
100%.
Even just scrolling through TikTok right now, like I have to be very intentional about like not watching these recaps or these incredibly like
disturbing
upsetting
things. Yeah,
yes.
I totally agree. And also, once you get so consumed with these things, you stop paying attention to the really important things. Yes. So exactly. So when Trump says something that's actually really problematic and scary, like actually scary, like
really scary hour where cops have no rules.
Like he's threatening to like deploy troops to like exactly. And then when he says stuff like that, it gets buried with all the little silly shit he did. Like, oh, he went to McDonald's and served fries. Haha, that's so stupid.
Ave Maria.
Exactly. He did his little stupid Trump dance, right? So we get so desensitized because, like you said, it's 24/7 that it gets buried. And then you forget, or it's easy to forget, okay, yeah, this man has said some really terrible racist things against Black Americans, against Latinos, against like gay people,
Puerto
women,
Ricans,
Puerto Ricans, Haitians, like because it's so bogged down and buried with just and so to me it's like I listen to the news every day while I get ready. My Google will just play like the little recap, which is all I need. Just give me like, you know, here's your headlines for the day. Perfect. I know what's on the... I found
that if I read it, it's much less
emotionally.
It's like I can just, you know, have my one sense really activated there, and then I can internalize and feel the information. But I think it's just, and you know, I always ask myself, like, I'd look back to the world before 2016 and ask myself, like, okay, is that attitude of making fun of Trump almost like early on in that election, like with the news and all that. Like, did that almost create him?
I thought that too. Like, if you look back at those SNL sketches, that did not age well. I remember one where it was Hillary and Trump. And I mean, to be fair, SNL has been doing this for years.
Yes.
I mean, the like Al Gore sketches from back in the day are hilarious.
Yes, the Sarah Palin.
Yes, and Will Ferrell is George W. Bush. Hilarious.
So good.
Right? It's so good.
Now watch this drive.
It's so funny. There was some sketch I remember with Trump and Hillary debating, and the commentators in the sketch were like, we might as well just say it. President Clinton, what do you think about it? Right?
Yeah.
And now I think back on that and I get like itchy. I'm like, oh my God, they jinxed us. I don't know. I think part of it was we didn't think that he had a chance in hell, right?
We gave him so much attention.
We gave him so much attention
to
mock him. And so that's what people started thinking, oh, this guy's funny. I remember people saying that. Oh, he's funny. Oh, he's a businessman. What's the worst that could happen? Mm-hmm. And turns out it's not funny. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of that was ever fucking funny. But like, I mean, whatever. Humor is subjective, I suppose. Yeah. But we gave him a lot of platforms. And I know that like Jimmy Fallon, he was on that show and he rubbed Trump's hair and kind of humanized him, right? Mm-hmm. And then they let Hillary host SNL. So Trump came and hosted SNL and did sketches with them. And there were a few cast members who were like, no, I'm not going to be on this episode if this guy is here. And I respect that so much, right? But gave him equal platforms as Hillary Clinton. Yeah. And he emerged as the guy with the great personality. Maybe he's a little rough around the edges, but he's funny and he says what he means, which he doesn't. He's a lying ass. But whereas Hillary Clinton was kind of
the standard cookie cutter politician.
Or, in a more misogynistic way, they were kind of putting her forth as like the shrill, no fun woman.
Well, that's just how men of a certain age see women.
Exactly. Like, and now it's the total opposite. Kamala laughs too much. I'm sorry. So either we laugh too much or we're too shrill. Which one's it gonna be, buddy?
The only acceptable version is a woman who's quiet.
There
ultimately,
it is. There it is.
And I mean, I think it is such an interesting world that we live in now, where we are not just seeing it on the news, but we're also seeing it in the algorithms. Mm-hmm. And there is proof that everything we see on social media is intentionally created, or not created, but like shown
targeted
to
us
you to further divide us.
Oh, absolutely.
And there are studies, it's not just from the news, but also on social media, where, you're starting to exist in a vacuum. And I do think that is such a scary world that we live in. And I see it personally just on my algorithms or my social media, where I go, oh, how could anybody ever think this way? And then I'm like, oh, no, I need to be intentional about consuming what is this other side seeing as well, so that you can just kind of understand. Like, I think one of the things that politics has done to us is intentionally divide us.
Oh, 100%. And it's getting worse and worse. That's such a good point. Like, I've said that to my husband before. Like, I can't comprehend how anybody would think XYZ. And he goes, well, they think that about you too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like,
exactly.
Damn, that's true, huh?
Yeah. And, like, I lived through that time with my brother in 2020. And, him and I went to all the same schools. We had the same upbringing. Obviously, he was a man, I was a woman. But we went to the same college, got the same degree even. And, I really wanted to, like, take a step back and be like, how does he think this way? And, we look at, there's always this joke about the male loneliness epidemic, but they are being served like these crazy, like misogynistic views, as well as like this looks maxing thing, and like everything in your life will be better.
Alpha male.
Everything in your life will be better if you have a six pack and you just like believe in these ideals and go back to church.
You are better than women. You need to assert your dominance over them and get a six pack and like get her back in the kitchen.
Yeah, and it's not these systematic things that have been created by government and by this division. It's just we, gave women too much responsibility, or we got too liberal. But
and
it's
Donald
not really
Trump's campaign and like agenda, absolutely, like that's what they stand for, right?
Yes.
Like, and so then when you see like a politician on television who's getting these platforms, who is also preaching these things. And maybe some of these words don't come straight from his mouth, but like they're from his cabinet too, from comedians he lets on stage with him.
That was disgusting.
Dude. And then
I did like him in the roast of Tom Brady though.
That's
and I was
what,
like, bro.
oh my God, we had faith in you. And then, you know, the grab her by the pussy tape came out and we all thought that was going to be the end, but it absolutely wasn't.
No.
And all it did was embolden this Giga Chad personality even more of, you know what? Yeah. Grab her by the pussy, man.
Yeah.
Like,
it's almost like crazy to think back on like everything, like the textbook for just 2016 to this time.
oh my God.
Is
when kids like are going to learn about this someday, they're going to be like, what were you guys thinking? What happened?
Yeah, no, it is really crazy.
Or at least the boy students will. The girls won't be allowed to read anymore.
Yeah. No, we're not manifesting that. We are sending really good love. Obviously, this episode is being recorded before the election results come out. So we are living in a world where
we don't know.
Hopefully we have rights.
Everybody listening.
Hopefully they let us make this podcast moving forward.
This might be the last episode of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Women speaking freely.
Yes.
No. Next Tuesday is going to be a great
Stop
day.
It. Why are you being so negative? We don't love that.
It's going to be a wonderful day.
That's what I mean, though, is like I had, and I don't think you could do this right now because of what you're working on and who you're talking to every day. But like I had to stop watching the news every day and I had to like read it and change my algorithm because it was such a negative feedback loop. And, you know,
I've tried to do it more with my social media, right? Because like you said, I work in politics. And so all day, all I'm thinking about is the election. All day, it's there. And just like.
And it shouldn't be that way. Like that is so scary that that's the world we live in.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also, it sucks you in when you're in that job, right?
Yes.
Like when you're going to an event, that's probably all you can think about for days.
Yep.
So my algorithm right now is a lot of dogs.
Yes.
And that's
good.
Just Halloween costumes and Agatha all along, which is amazing, by the way. Oh my God.
I know. I've been seeing a lot of like fan
it's incredible
hype on it. And I'm like, do I watch it?
You should absolutely watch it.
I'd have to watch WandaVision.
No, you don't. I'll fill you in.
Okay.
Literally, you don't.
Cool.
It's very queer and very witchy.
Yes.
It's amazing.
I heard she's got a plaque for being the first woman in the Marvel universe
to show her
ass.
butt. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
a good
that.
Butt.
Yeah.
It's a good butt.
It's a good bum. Good bum.
Good bum. Squirrel.
Yep. I have to change the subject.
No, but all of my scrolling right now is I try to keep it
very light. Yeah.
Because I need that little break, or I'll play little games on my phone and turn off the brain for a little bit. Or watch scary movies, anything to just, you know, we need to take care of ourselves in this time, I think.
Yeah. And Shauna and I obviously really believe in the Democratic Party right now as the best solution for women. But I hope, you know, if you are an undecided voter or even a Republican who's listening to this, hopefully we didn't scare you away by now, that
we love you. We love everyone.
Yeah, that you know that we believe that we are so much closer than what separates us.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think that, you know, we exist in a world right now that is intentionally trying to divide us. And I think just going back to remembering we're all struggling, the problems that are being talked about in politics are really only applying to the upper elite or 1% of people. And we're all struggling.
You never know what the person next to you is struggling with or what they're experiencing.
Or what their life experience is,
exactly.
what their education.
What got them to this level.
What their algorithm shows them.
You never know what the person next to you's algorithm looks
what that
like.
TikTok
Just
for you
that.
page is.
I mean, yeah, we both have friends who are Republicans. And like you said, we have a lot in common. And we try to focus on that and like, you know, just live life the best you can and be a decent person. There you go. And rewatch Parks and Rec because that's the government at its pinnacle.
And if you've never seen it, watch The Manchurian Candidate because that's
I've never seen that
I
either.
know. I can't believe you've never seen it. It's Denzel. It's so good.
Yum.
It's so good. I can't even begin to explain. It's so conspiratorial, but it's,
oh my God.
It's really, really good.
Okay, so I'm only watching anything scary up until Thursday, which is for future listeners.
It was Halloween.
It's going to be Halloween in 2 days for us on this side. So only scary movies. But then after that, maybe I'll get into some political
it's a good,
drama.
Like political thriller.
Yeah.
And psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
So I
love to be psychologically thrilled.
I put it in the like kind of like Jacob's Ladder. Okay. Have you ever seen Jacob's Ladder? You got to watch it. The 70s one is so good.
All of these.
Okay, Jacob's Ladder is known as one of the best psychological horrors of all time.
What?
Yeah.
Like, I have no concept of what this is.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Is there a ladder?
It's Jacob's Ladder. Do you know what that is? It's like the twist. It's that thing you used to do when you were a kid.
Oh.
Yeah, with the string.
Oh, like a
I'm
cat's
saying
cradle?
this like, yeah, like kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like
It's
that.
a what?
It's a what?
A what now?
Yeah. There was string in there.
Yeah, we used to play with strings when I was a youth.
I had to find the strings.
Oh, yeah,
in the
with strings and rocks and sticks. I'm only 35. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Everybody like older than me right now is like, shut up.
Yes. They're like, oh, I'd give anything to go back to then. And so my pop is Manchurian Candidate. Your pop is
Agatha All Along.
I
Watch
love
it. It's incredible. It's on Disney Plus. Tomorrow is October 30th for us, and it's gonna have the last 2 episodes. But at that point, you can just stream the entire thing on Disney Plus, and highly recommend it.
The Pluses. Okay.
Yes.
Love that. Now, it's time to wrap up this campaign, but before we go, let's tell our friends how they can find us on social media.
You can find me, Shauna Trinidad, on Instagram and not on TikTok until Olivia helps me get back in. At Shauna Trinidad, Shaunatrinidad.
And you can find me, Olivia, on Instagram at Livy Maries, LIVIMARIEZ. You can find me on TikTok at Live Yo Life 420, LIVYOLIFE 420.
Good spelling.
I can spell. I can spell.
I can spell. I know the best words.
And don't forget, you can find the Pop Culture Junkie podcast social media links and much, much more on our website, popculturejunkie.com. From there, you can find our podcast on all platforms and follow, subscribe, rate, review. Please do it all. It really helps us to get found and reach more people with our lovely, stimulating, intellectual discussions.
Very intellectually stimulating.
Intellectual.
Psychologically thrilling.
Yeah, psychologically thrilling. You never know where we're going to go on this one. One day we're talking about pop music and a recession, political candidates,
yes.
Chrissy Teigen.
Boobs come up, dick jokes.
Yeah.
All of it.
We have it all.
Cunnilingus.
Shauna's dad not getting a blowy. Sorry, I had to throw it in there. And for only $5 per month, you'll get access to the completely uncensored, unedited, unapologetic video version of this podcast. Yes. You can only imagine. You'll also get access to all of our episodes 1 week early. And of course, every subscription helps us bring you the best of pop culture every week. Find us at patreon.com/popculturejunkiepodcast. Sign up and get that sneak peek. Or just let us call your name out during our next episode. And thank you for being a subscriber.
Like this. Olivia. Was that so good?
If you're on YouTube, you will see the look of horror in my face.
She looks so offended, but also like kind of like
I
liked it. We will say your name like that if you subscribe.
Shauna will. I won't. And come back next week for another hit of pop culture.
The Pop Culture Junkie podcast is produced by Jeff Markin and Cheryl Lightfoot for the Pop Culture Entertainment Network.
So entertain